Okay, welcome to the 1:30 meeting, the BOCC. Mike, I'll just turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Mike Moss, Public Services Director. Today, we'll start off with the first bullet point there, leachate line and pond updates. As you know, we have been having an issue with a plugged leachate line. And last Wednesday, I gave you an update that we got it open. There's a 16-mile leachate line, and after 3 weeks of the shutdown, we got it open the first day it started raining really hard last Wednesday. So we're just in time because we received 3 inches of rain on Wednesday at the landfill, then another inch on Thursday, and then 3 more inches on Friday. So we had 7 inches of rain in a 72-hour period. So the timing was great for us to get that plug out, but we did start hauling trucks way before that point. We started hauling leachate down the hill in tankers on March 4th in preparation of rain because we knew we had a plugged line. And we've continued to haul leachate the whole time, including today. The pictures you have in front of you is this morning. We'll probably continue to haul leachate this week and possibly into next week, just to make sure we have some more headroom in that pond. As of last night, we've hauled 4.1 million gallons down the hill in tankers.
4.1. Wow.
About 850 loads. So, as you see in the first picture there, that's Jamie's truck there near the pond. We've receded down about a foot since our high point on Saturday afternoon. So we have a 4-inch pump going into the truck there. It takes about 20 minutes to load that truck. We're running about 10 trucks a day now. Our high point was 16 trucks per day. And currently we're running about 12 hours a day trucking. Our high point was 18 hours a day. So we've toned it down a little bit since the heavy rains have passed, but we're still continuing to haul leachate. Page 2. Oh, go
I
ahead.
haven't had a complaint about all the traffic on the road yet.
Not yet. Page 2 shows another truck there. Just about 10 days ago, we decided that hauling one truck out of that pond at a time wasn't sufficient. So we added another pad there. So we're able to get 2 trucks at a time out of the pond. We'll look for a better long-term fix down the road, but it only took a few hours for us to put a quick culvert in there because there is a ditch line at that point, and then threw some rock down just to get an extra pump going once you get another 4-inch line. And where we normally pump out at is page number 3. This is what we call the RTF, the Rail Transfer Facility. This is what Weyerhaeuser used to haul leachate down the hill for years in their rail cars. So it comes from the top, as you can see. It's a little bit easier for us. Just go up top, turns the valve on, and pumps the trucks full. We only have 2 spots to load trucks there. That's why we add additional spots over at the pump itself to give us more volume coming down the hill. And the last page is just to show you, I keep talking about the backside of Public Works where we put all the leachate down to the vault, and that's looks like a lot of snakes coming out of the hole, but we leave certain lines down there, so it's easy for them, just a quick attach, pump it out, and get back on the road back up to the landfill again. So that's where the end of our 16-mile line from the landfill goes into that vault and then heads to Turwa after that point.
It goes to Turwa after that. Huh?
Yep. So.
Unless that's not a leachate mud puddle.
It's not. It's brown, and that'd be black if it was leachate. I thought the same thing, Commissioner. I go, is that the right picture? No, yes, it's correct. So we'll give you another update next week to tell you if we're continuing to hauling, give you a fresh picture of how far the ponds are down at that point. We're expecting to lose about another 2 feet in the ponds by Friday. The pumps right now are still continuing to keep up on their own, but we're just trying to get a little more space by the trucking. With the rainfall forecast, we expect of 8 to 10 inches a day earlier in this week, and then probably a full foot a day in reduction by the end of the week over the weekend. All right, questions? And we have a request today. You got a couple pictures in front of you for a new lawnmower, actually more than a lawnmower. We currently run John Deere tractors with a long reach and mower system, mower head, and that's really what page 2 is. This is currently the cast rock mower on page 2. Last year, we switched the Longview shop over to a Mower Max, which is actually built more for mowing compared to a tractor. We spent a lot of money on this tractor, mainly because it's just not really built for what we do with the arm and the head and just a lot of breakage. The last few years, we've probably spent we have spent 3 times more on maintenance on the John Deere than our other shops there that have old, newer ones. So in replacement, instead of buying another one, we were coming here today to ask, to change it over to a Mower Max system. I believe the reason we're here today because it's not budgeted. We do have reserves, but it's a couple of years, I believe, ahead of schedule.
Mhm.
And that's why we're here today to ask that request. And Sean has a little bit more detail on that part of it.
Yeah, so the green mower you see on the second page is Castle Rock Shop's mower. It is scheduled for replacement in 2 years. It is in need of significant repairs currently. The cost of the mower over the past few years, plus this anticipated cost, would be significant and be a significant offset against the new purchase of one. So it makes more sense to put that towards a new mower. Specifically, the arm is in need of repair. The mower itself's in pretty good shape, so we can use that elsewhere. But we do have reserves set aside to replace that already.
And the new ones cost right around 290, but we're asking for 300,000. Just making sure we cover. Then the 290 includes shipping and taxes, and they're about 90 days out to delivery. And the reserves are,
So we have approximately 400,000 for the pool of mowers.
So you're just saying we're making an early withdrawal?
correct, yeah, a couple of years early on this piece of equipment. But when we saw the repair totals that were coming in or needed to repair, is like, do we want to do that now or just kind of put it towards a new mower, as Sean said?
So the mower is not particular to the John Deere tractor, so what else have you got you can use it on?
Well, we're probably surplus. I know the Expo Grants have been looking for a tractor for quite a few years, and Kim will be here shortly, but she's had a request in to buy a newer tractor because there's a 1998 model over there with quite a few hours on it. So it's something that we could surplus and then sell to the fairgrounds at a reduced value for helping the fairgrounds out.
Okay,
We have one of these more Maxes now?
We do. Yes, actually,
Yeah.
I was hoping to bring it to the parking lot today, but it's in our Kelso shop over
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
But it's been reliable.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
we've
it's
had it a long,
really built to do this.
it is built for that. A lot of states around the country have gone to the Mower Max. Because like I said, we just made a John Deere tractor into a mower and it just isn't the smartest way to go.
Well,
and
you
so-
can make it work with all these attachments, you know, as Commissioner says, it's gonna put some strain on the.
Exactly. And we have a lot of issues with that boom. Actually, that's not the original boom. We've replaced it a couple different times and that's actually the Longview boom. When we get the Longview, got the new Mower Max on the front page, they got the boom from Longview. But it's now also need repair again. They're just, like I said, not made for what we're using it for. You guys good?
I'm good.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a little show and tell on pictures. As you know, we've had quite a bit of a rain event, as we talked about for the leachate, but also our road system. A few pictures here to start with. The very first picture is KRR is Clamor River Road. So that's at milepost 2.7. Had the slide come down over the weekend. That was a little over 50 loads by the time it was all said and done to get that off the road system and back, getting both lanes back open. The second picture is actually, it's Klamath Fire Department that was assisting us with their fire truck, getting more debris down the hill there at milepost 3.3. We got about 30 loads of debris off of that particular slide. It took most of the day. We saw, got calls that morning on that slide, but we saw so much stuff hung up above it. We just didn't want to clean up what was down on the road and then reopen it, maybe getting someone hit by debris coming down. So we waited till the fire department was available to get the rest of the material down for us. And this is West Side Highway. That's
You
just a
guys-
smaller one, but we've had quite a few of these smaller ones throughout the county. They just go over the fog line, but stuff that we, of course, still have to go around and get, but numerous slides.
I saw you had your excavator unloaded at my place this morning.
Yeah.
Had my hopes up.
And then, of course, the big one, Tootle Park Road. This is a picture I took 3:13, so that must have been Friday afternoon.
You're kidding me, that high?
Yeah, you can see out in the middle there on a little bit of the left-hand side, there's full fir trees coming down the road, down the river with root wads and everything. That's how angry that river was that day. There was a lot of material coming down and churning in that corner of Tootle Park Road. As this picture is taken, we're still losing just a little bit off the side, but not that much towards the road. And then, of course, Sunday morning, we lost particularly more and had to cone off that one lane. And we're adding more Jersey barriers now, but we just want to make sure no one's driving close to that. And you can see in the next page on 315 also the cracks by the side of the road, getting close to the road. And just about an hour ago, our operations manager, Dan Bales, sent me the picture of the last one there. That was at 1 o'clock today. Went all the way to the road. So we're now preparing to move either further towards the north where that driveway and garbage cans are, and move the road to that direction in the next few days. And so Susan's here to give you an update on what the next steps are, working with getting the new road put in past the neighbors off the end of.
Look, that's a pretty good sized chunk that just fell off of there.
Yeah, it was. And that culvert that was hanging out, some of those earlier pictures that we had, I don't know if it's on here, or those are down over the hill, and yeah, it's.
How's the wall on this guy's property?
With the rock there?
Yeah,
No changes from everything we've seen.
with all that rock base, it
Yeah.
seems to hold it, doesn't it?
Yep, and just turns it in that corner
Okay.
there.
Wow.
So our next steps are, you'll be seeing an emergency resolution to go ahead and do I'm currently calling it Baby Burma because I don't get to pick the names of roads. That would be Tracy's purview. So we've been working on and have at about 75% design a roadway coming off the end of Burma on cutting across. So it's the south property line of Weyerhaeuser's property there, north property line of, I believe, some residents, running parallel along that line. So we were going to get right away along that line. Then when we reach the gun range, moving away from our southern neighbor, coming up, tying in, reconnecting the gun range parking lot into that road, and then tying back into the road to the south. So we are currently working up the emergency contract. I hope to have something out to a contractor this week, and that we can be bringing that to you to get them out and start working on replacing the road. We have completed and had sent comments back on our critical areas report. So we've been working on getting our permits lined up. So we have the critical areas report that we're going to submit, the SEPA we're going to submit, and I forgot the other one, critical areas and SEPA. And we have George Fornes, who has said that as long as our environmental says there's no creek down there, he agrees with them. We're still putting a culvert in the bottom in case something changes. But our intent is to get started and get out there as soon as we can. So we'll be following up. We'll be doing the emergency resolution, followed by the emergency contract, and hopefully we'll be out there working by the middle of the month. Right now, we have not finalized our plans on how we're going to connect these people in at the end to a roadway, but we wanted to get that road stabilized. We have a meeting on Thursday with the property owner along the south part of the new road for property acquisition, because we have our appraisals are done. So we have an offer for her that we're going to present on Thursday. And then we're trying to get a meeting with Weyerhaeuser to get a possession and use from them, knowing that their negotiations will take longer because they have multiple lawyers involved, I'm sure. But we are moving as soon as we have the property rights. We hope to also have the contractors so we can get something out there. We are planning on, we've also had a geotechnical report done of that area, because if you've ever been out there, Burma Road's high, it dips down way into a gully and then back up to the gun range. And by dips down, I'm talking 20 to 40 feet. We're going to be pushing 25 feet of fill into that gully. So the geotechnical engineer has recommended that in that heavy fill area, because we didn't have time to do borings and all that, it's a high probability based on that mass, it's going to settle. So we're going to pave the first section of the road that runs along the property lines. Then we're going to transition to gravel through that gully area, let it settle for a year, and then come back in 2027 and add more rock and pave that to a final grade.
When I look at this last picture showing where it's washed out up to the road, where does the new road come in at?
So
Get to this washout?
the new road is what, 2, 3, 4, 500 feet north at least?
That will go to the neighbors, yes. The new road that actually go past warehouse and the other property owners probably about 3/4 of a mile north of this. They'll come into the parking lot, between the parking lot and the trap range, that area to your left there that's all sand, when you make that corner there, that's where the road will go into the gun
Well
range now.
beyond this washout.
This road will probably at a certain point be blocked off, probably to the left of this
Yeah.
picture. So that'll be a turnaround there at the end of Tootle Park Road, where this road will no longer be accessed by anybody.
So when I look at this picture where it's washed out at the road, if I look, I don't know what that is, 100 yards upstream, it looks like there's a lot of that has also been taken out.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's why I think where the driveway that's gonna go, there's 3-4 residences we have to worry about. To the driveway there to the left, we're gonna enter the driveway from further around the corner, so we don't have to worry about this area at all at any point.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of vacate that whole section of the road, just come in from the north and get rid of this south section. But yeah, you're right, you're correct. We lost a lot of land upstream, from not just that corner here, but a lot of stuff flushed down into the Cowlitz and also the Columbia River.
Well, I'm sure
this
it's
last weekend.
deposited into the Cowlitz by now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, it's gonna run all the way through.
No, it's
Yeah,
not a problem.
I know. it.
Army Corps of Engineers.
You're gonna be able
When
to-
it gets to the Columbia.
In the summer, I'm just gonna be able to walk past the fairgrounds and ride across the,
So when we get back to the office, we'll send you the latest, like she said, Susan said, we have like 70% drawings. We'll send you the drawings of where the roads are coming in at. That'll be helpful for you guys.
And we haven't finalized the turnaround yet. We were more concentrating on getting this road designed so someone can put it in. Then we were going to work on getting the driveways, and then we'll do the final turnaround, going to do it in those stages.
I like this picture, but I don't like this picture. It's going back to DC with me, because 2 years ago I showed them the picture and said, we're worried about this.
Yeah.
And now show them we're having to build a new road. That's what
Right.
that mountain's doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And hopefully we'll have some price estimates shortly.
What kind of pain does it, obviously, is 3 or 4 houses they'll access by another road. Does it
Correct.
mean address change? I'm just trying to figure out what kind of pain they have to go through. They're gonna get new addresses, they're gonna do all that kind of stuff.
Probably, yes. Yeah, we'll probably have to get them new addresses. The gun range will have a new address.
Yeah, we thought we were fairly safe we thought we got through most of the winter storms, but this last weekend, we were going to build a road no matter what, but this certainly moves it up quite a bit for the time frame for us. We're hoping to do a summertime construction project and still have Tootle Park open the whole time, but I don't see that happening.
Geez, Mike, when I first came on, the first visit out there, we could walk out like,
Yeah,
I want to say 40 feet or
at
something.
least, yeah.
Incredible. We were just talking about the power of water yesterday.
Yeah, when we saw this picture or the rain come through and when I went there, every day staff was going out there, but I took the pictures on Friday. It was like, it was a matter of time. There was no way that road was going to hold up. It was, like I said, the Tootle River is almost as wide as the Cowlitz at that point, if not wider.
Yeah, it's true. True.
And it was very interesting watching the water gauges. They've peaked as high as they did in December.
Really.
Yes.
Winter's not over yet.
No, I'm gonna remind him, if you'd just let me blow that up.
I, not too late. Oh, it is too late. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get you a map later today. So sorry I didn't bring that with us.
Okay, so the only other item we have on here is a follow-up from me on this morning, the gentleman with the no parking zone. Would you like us to have that assigned to someone to go ahead and get the paperwork forward? Because the process is, they've asked the board, then the board directs Public Works to do a little investigation, and then we set a public hearing, and they have a public hearing, and if it's decreed of no parking area, we go out and put out signs.
So what is no parking area concern? Is that just vehicles, mobile vehicles, or is that trailer gonna be affected by it?
So that trailer is not on the right of way. What it'll affect is anybody parking. It's a kind of a pullout where the driveways are, so it would affect anybody who would go and park there. So potentially the person living in the
Somebody's living
trailer.
in it, and they have their car or their two cars or whatever parked there, they won't be able to do that anymore.
Correct.
So if they're living there, where are they gonna park?
Yeah,
Down
Yeah,
in-
that
down
was
at
the crux
Monroe
of what he
Bridge.
wanted.
well, that may be a result he's hoping for,
Yeah,
I suppose. I don't, if the post office is telling us it's dangerous for them, they won't deliver, I
No,
would probably make the case for the no parking.
I thought it was interesting when when I was originally told they weren't delivering mail, I was told they weren't delivering any mail, not that they wouldn't go down to the driveway and deliver packages, because that's two different things. So it sounds like they won't, if they're coming up perpendicular, they won't try and come out left or right, but if they're just pulling over and then pulling back out, and continuing on, that they're willing to do that. So I don't know.
this isn't something we need to consult legal about.
It's not what?
Anything we need to consult with legal about?
We can have that discussion with Doug tomorrow morning. We have our bi-monthly meeting with Doug tomorrow, so
Do you have any idea what the criteria is that the post office uses to deem dangerous or?
no idea. No idea if it's driver comfort or if they actually go out and measure anything. So I don't know how they determined it's unsafe.
Or it's, you just don't want to do it.
Might be
Yeah.
a new route driver that doesn't
Yeah.
like it. I don't know.
I can totally see how it would be a hairy situation pulling out with, you know, a truck or something coming on the road because you can't see it because of that blind corner right down the road. Yeah,
How many houses are down there? Four.
four, I think, 4 or 5.
They get in and out.
They probably don't like it, but yeah, they do.
Those houses have been there for quite a while.
Mhm.
He named off 1, 2, 3, yeah, four different addresses, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, if I remember right, I think that was part of his argument was that they had a hard time pulling out of the driveway, but there was no like proof or evidence or anything to substantiate that. Now he's got the post office saying, yeah, this is
Yeah.
an issue.
I guess my initial thoughts is I don't care if we started running through the process, but when we get to an actual hearing, I think as Commissioner O'Farrell alludes to, I'd like to have a good idea how the post office makes that decision that it's dangerous.
I'd like to have some understanding of why did it suddenly happen now and not last year?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so when whatever decision we make, we've seen everything could, back up what we say.
Yeah, we'll ask Doug tomorrow and then move on to the USPS. How they make the decision. That's all we have, unless you have any miscellaneous items for us.
Believe so.
Great, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Jennifer's coming over, okay? Wow, that last picture is. Well, is she just on her way?
Mike?
Yeah. We can recess for a couple minutes, sure, till she gets here. The world of noxious weeds. You're about ready to start heading into busy time, aren't you? Getting closer.
Yes, we are getting there. Good afternoon, Jennifer Mendoza with Cowlitz County Noxious Weeds. I have for you today our 2025 program statistics presentation. What's that? Nope, first time. Perfect. Okay, and then it's. All right, well, excuse me while I learn how to use the technology right now. So for 2025, I feel like we had a very successful year. Again, the purpose of the noxious weed laws is to limit the economic loss and adverse effects to Washington's agricultural, natural resources, and human resources due to the presence of noxious weeds on terrestrial and aquatic areas. So we're working throughout everywhere, not just lands, but also waters. Our weed board was activated in 1974, so we've been around for just over 50 years. And we really focus on educating the public over enforcement, even though that is an ability that the law gives us. Okay, there we go. I have here just our division of our weed board and how it's distributed amongst the county. So we have 5 weed areas represented by citizens as volunteers. And again, our mission is to protect the lands in Cowlitz County from these noxious weeds. I've been through some of this with you before, so I think the first part I'm gonna go a little bit faster. There's nobody in the audience unless there's someone online. But within Washington, noxious weed is a legal definition. And so we're looking at weeds that have been through a process at the state level to list them as a noxious weed. And we have 168 species on the noxious weed list. Those species are broken down into 3 classifications, Class A, B, and C. Class A is the highest priority, and we are required to eradicate those. There are 43 species on the list, and we have 9 of those present here in Cowlitz County. These are some of the photos of those species. We have slender flower thistle and milk thistle. We've been working on eradicating those for just over 10 years. We've got to be getting close because the seed bank is dwindling, but we have to continue to monitor. False brome is our latest, greatest invader, really taking off, and we're struggling to capture that one. It's a grass, and it's really difficult to detect. So we've been working with most of our grant funds on that species as of late. And then we have things pop up like giant hogweed or eggleaf spurge every once in a while as well. The State Weed Board did add a few new noxious weeds to the Class A list for 2026, and that includes Delta arrowhead and water hemp, as well as a new parasitic plant called sunflower broom rape. And with that species specifically, it's a really big deal because it's the first detection that there has been in North America. So it's not just Washington State at this point. We're trying to keep it out of the rest of the country. And that's been detected in Yakima County. So they're working really hard on that. So then we have our Class B noxious weeds. The goal with Class B noxious weeds is to contain them. And we have selected in our county many of these to control. Of the 70 species on the list, 64 are required for control in our county. We think we have 48 of those species. Our most common include knotweed, tansy ragwort, Scotch broom, shiny geranium, and poison hemlock. So I have a couple photos there of those species. And then we have our Class C noxious weeds. These are typically common in most areas of the state, but there is still an agricultural threat or a different kind of threat, if not agricultural. And so oftentimes it's still a priority to control them, contain them, or educate about them. Of the 55 species on the Class C list, 14 are required for control in our county, but we do have 37 of them here. Some of those species include Canada thistle, Himalayan blackberry, tree of heaven, and Italian arum. There were 3 new species added to the list this year, black locust, Norway maple, and common holly. And you may be familiar with those species as they are very widespread in our area, but they are also being recognized for their negative impacts in our natural resource areas. So we are starting to educate about those. Just a reminder that it is the landowner's duty to control the noxious weeds, not our program's duty, although we do provide a lot of different resources to help the landowner, but ultimately they are the ones responsible for eradicating Class A weeds and controlling the spread of Class B and Class C weeds. So again, our program is overseen by the Noxious Weed Control Board, 5 citizen volunteers, and our WSU Extension Director is on the board as well as a non-voting member. I'm the coordinator. We do have 1 admin assistant, 2 inspectors, and a 3/4 time noxious weed specialist. And then in the summertime, we hire a seasonal or 2 to support our field work. So in the summertime, we have a few more faces to join our team. We have many program benefits to our community through what we do. Primarily, we identify weeds in our community and educate the landowners. When we educate the landowners, that helps to control the spread and reduce the weed presence in our county overall. The landowners are then meeting the noxious weed law and preventing the spread, overall reducing the cost of control for all landowners. So it's kind of the idea of exponential spread, and if you stop the exponential spread, there will be fewer costs in the long term. So in a straight pattern, that is kind of what we do, but depending on what species you're talking about, we also help to decrease toxic plants in our community, improve the ability for farmers to manage their agriculture by not having as many weeds in there. Sometimes the weeds that we're dealing with lessen environmental impacts. We have very flammable weeds or weeds that increase erosion. So some of those, as we try to get rid of those, can help reduce those impacts. Many of our aquatic weeds reduce the recreational opportunities on our waterways. So by controlling those, we're helping to enhance the waterways and salmon habitat as well. And then noxious weeds tend to take over and create monocultures and decrease plant biodiversity. So by controlling weeds, our entire community is benefiting because it increases native plant biodiversity. So we have many benefits to the community that are not always straightforward. So within our annual review, we tend to look at a couple different categories: education and outreach, inspection, our grant projects, and our financial stability. So those are the areas we're going to look at today. For education and outreach, we did a total of 19 presentations and attended 11 community events last year for a total of 30 community interest events. And we estimate that we reached just over 2,000 people throughout all of those events. I do tend to partner with the Master Gardeners for the Tuesday Zoom presentations that they do. So I did 5 presentations with Master Gardeners last year. And specific to last year, we have started to increase our volunteer opportunities. And so we were able to hold 2 volunteer opportunities with the LCC students. There's an environment class and club there that we worked with. And then we also have been partnering with the Mountaineers, which is actually a chapter out of Olympia, but they are very dedicated to Mount St. Helens. And so we've been working with them for a number of years to hold some volunteer events, removing Scotch broom at Mount St. Helens. So a lot of our program is based on education. And so in order to educate folks, we do provide them with many written materials. So we do produce our own fact sheets and weed lists to send to everybody who has a weed that we detect. Using the weed list and IPM guide as an indicator, we did just over 1,000 of those last year, which is actually down from the years before. But I think that's because some of our education and inspection protocols are working. So I'm not upset that we reduced our overall printed publications that we gave out last year. But we do all of that in-house. And then we also receive some materials from the State Weed Board. So looking at the most popular book that we give out, it's a small ID book for Western Washington. And we gave out just under 600 of those last year, which is close to average, a little bit less, but they are pretty limited in publication right now. We do receive other materials from our state weed board, including early detection postcards. So if we detect something that's a high priority in a neighborhood for the first time, we can draw a circle around it on the map and send out these postcards that describe the weed and ask if they've seen it in their area. And then we also have a lot of brochures that we give out from the state weed board as well. So it's nice to have their support there. For our inspection program, just a brief overview, our process is we drive around the county on all of the public roads, whatever we can see from the road. We record in our map, and then we educate the landowner by sending a letter. That letter is a casual letter requesting them voluntary compliance, and we request that they control it or communicate with us within 14 days. After 14 days is up, we follow up again, visiting the site to see if it's been addressed. And we can choose at that point what steps to take next. We usually try to contact them in another way, find a phone number, door knock. But if all of those steps fail, we also have the ability to send them a notice of violation, which is a certified letter and the first step in the legal process behind the weed laws. Over the last few years, we've really been focusing on making sure that we find other ways to contact those landowners. So we did not send very many notice of violations last year, which is great because that means that we're getting to the landowners on a more educational level than an enforcement level. So looking at our data collection throughout the year, this is a timeline from January through December. We're not collecting a whole lot of weed data in January and December, but from February through November, we're usually pretty active. And I'm trying to move the video here because it's right in my number. For 2025, we did collect 3,500 weed points throughout the year. And you can see that that's right in line with the same pattern as the other years. So just to see our busy season really kicks up in April, and we're definitely busy through the end of September before we start to slow down. Of all of the data we collected last year, these are the top species in which we collected more than 100 points. So species I've already mentioned, false brome as a class A. That one by default, unfortunately, is going to get more points collected because we are collecting every separated site that we find it rather than one site per parcel. So a parcel may have 10 locations of false brome. Because it's a class A and we need to know where everything is so we can follow up on it in the future. The Japanese knotweed is similar to that. We have grant projects, so we're recording more frequently than some of our other species. The other species you see up here, Italian arum, poison hemlock, shining geranium, and tansy ragwort, we do not have grant programs on, so the numbers that you see there are indicative of individual parcels that may have had those species. So we're looking at just over 300 points for tansy, which is down from years past. Italian arum is almost 200. Poison hemlock is almost 200, and shiny geranium is also hovering around 200. So those are our most common weeds that we're seeing in the field. And
Ask you a question on
yeah,
that, Jennifer. Let's take false brome. It's a class A noxic, so it's top on the list. We want to get rid of that. What's it do that we want to? I mean, what made
Yes.
it that way? Does it take nutrients out of ground? You said some take nutrients out of ground, some can cause erosion. What's this thing do that we want to get rid of it?
so false brome invades in the forest understory and outcompetes the native plants. So where we've seen it well established, there are very few to no other native plants growing in the forest understory. That can change the entire ecology of the forest. It reduces the forage that's available to wildlife, and it also can increase the fire regime in the site because false brome has such a thick thatch layer that there's a lot more leaf litter left on the forest floor. And so if a forest fire were to start, it would spread a lot faster in that environment than some of our native species.
Okay.
So it's really detrimental to the forestry industry in terms of fire, also vole habitat, and voles can tend to destroy tree roots. and then just overall biodiversity in the ecosystem.
Do some of these attract insects?
Some do.
I only wonder because these last few years, we've seen these little black beetle things that, get
Yeah.
all over the house. And I don't remember seeing those in the past. And I
I
keep
don't,
going, who brought those in?
I don't know of any noxious weed that is a host for the box elder bug.
Okay,
But interestingly, false brome is also a host for a pathogen that can cause sheep stagger. So if the sheep were to ingest the false brome with the fungus on it, it would cause them to have some health issues. But false brome itself is just non-nutritional for animals, but it can be a host for a fungus that is detrimental. So
all right.
I probably missed a few of the negative impacts, but those are the highlights.
Jennifer, I remembered our meeting, you talked about, you guys found that Wilco was selling one of the weeds on our list.
Yes.
Whatever happened with that?
So that's a great question. The backstory is
Like on the side of the road?
No,
We
they were
were-
selling it in their store.
one of our team members was at a store and saw one of the Class A species, which we have never detected here before. It's called clary sage, for sale at the store, a box store. And so we were able to connect with the store directly and inform them of the noxious weed laws, but that is not anything that we have true jurisdiction over. So when we see that, we report it to the WSDA, who has the quarantine ability. And they informed me that their inspector would go check out the situation. And from there, I haven't heard anything, although I did ask to be kept in the loop. So I haven't heard back from them. That was maybe 2 weeks ago. So I know that when our inspectors were there, they were able to convince them to remove it from the shelves. It came from a distributor in Oregon, and in Oregon, that specific species is not considered a noxious weed. So it was being sold as a medicinal plant. So they just brought it right over, unfortunately. I also made our other county noxious weed coordinators aware, and I know a few of them went to check their stores of the same name to see whether or not it was present. And I haven't heard from anybody that anyone else found it. So hopefully it was a fluke. But we are now ready to look for that species here in our county.
Noxious weed, I've set up secret shoppers.
I know. If you ever see our inspectors at the store, they are doing their job. Okay, so this is the graph that shows noxious weed species that we collected fewer than 100 points of. I really didn't put this up here to go into which species is what, but just to show the breadth of species that we're finding. And it's quite a bit throughout the year, so it definitely keeps us busy. Okay, so the next indicator that we tend to look at when we're looking at success for a program is our written communications. And I think that this one tells an interesting story. So in addition to requests for control letters, again, I mentioned notice of violation letters. We also send informational letters, which is really more informal, and we tend to not follow up on those. Postcard reminders, and those go to people who received our top maybe 5 or 6 weeds last year. Because noxious weeds is never a one and done. If you have it once, it's probably going to come back in a future year. So we started sending postcard reminders in 2021. And as you can see, last year we sent 1,500 of those. And I think that that's strongly correlated with the number of letters we're sending, because our number of request to control letters dropped from about 1,200 down to just under 900. So if we're able to send a reminder postcard to a known location, what we're finding is the inspectors are not needing to follow up with that person again that year directly, meaning they don't have to stop and record a point and then monitor it from there. So we find those postcards to be very effective. And then we also sent out last year almost 500 early detection postcards. And so many of those were false brome, but also for other Class A species, noting that there was a new infestation found in their neighborhood. And so it just got sent to anyone who lives nearby. So last year we had just over 2,800 written communications, which is up from the prior year. So a lot of written things going out. This graph is considering how many of our letters, if they received a request to control letter, how many of those letters were addressed appropriately. So if they were closed, that means that the landowner responded positively by removing their weeds. Or we did have 10% that were, okay, now it's blocking it again, partial control. So oftentimes we give them a 2-week deadline and we can see that they've done something, but maybe they just didn't have enough time and they're probably going to continue to work on it. So many of our landowners did partial control as well. We did have about 23% were left as unresolved or unclear. We couldn't tell what happened if they did it right by the time we were able to go back. And only 10%, which is a fairly consistent number with the year before, noted as no control. They obviously did nothing. Those landowners, in my mind, have probably a little bit of karma coming from them by letting the weeds go to seed. They will continue to come back and probably in a worse manner in the future. At some point, they will recognize that and likely reach out for help with control. So most of those would not have been Class A species. They would have been Class C species or things that just weren't in a large enough infestation size to really push. So
At what point does somebody have to get to in order for you to take enforcement action?
we have a lot of things that we have to consider when deciding that. General community presence of the weed. So if something is very widespread, it's less likely to go to enforcement. But if that landowner has showed repetitive, no control actions for several years, and in addition to that is blatantly telling us, no, I'm not going to control it, not even making any efforts, then it would likely go towards an enforcement. Some other things that we consider is proximity to agriculture or proximity to a natural resource that's important. If it's an EDRR species, meaning we don't have very many infestations, that would bump it up the list really quickly. So some of those other things are considered. It's not a simple decision to make. Landowners who we just can't get a hold of sometimes will receive a notice of violation letter if we've tried all of the other methods in the book. Sometimes it catches their attention long enough for them to give us a call and we talk through it, and usually they're willing to control it after that. But sometimes it's a matter of getting a hold of people. So, okay, so this one is comparing of all of the weed reports we've sent from 2019 to 2025, which is my time here at the program, whether we needed to send them a letter in 2025 specifically. So of all of those reports, 76% we are considering under active control, and we did not need to send them a letter in 2025. And 14%, or 555 points, were new detections last year. So those folks have never received a letter for a noxious weed before. So that's really important because we're catching those new infestations before they spread further. And only 10% were present in a prior year. So that means that we're not doing as much rework with people who have had detections in the past, that most people are actively controlling their weeds. Okay, so I mentioned we have a number of assistance programs that we offer to our citizens to try to help them control noxious weeds. I would say our biggest assistance program is our grants. We have grants for Class A weeds, for knotweed along certain creeks, and some smaller grants, and especially up at the mountain. But primarily for private landowners, we've got a couple of grants available, and we were able to help 158 landowners last year through our grant programs. I would say about 100 of those were with false brome. We also have an exempt treatment program, so landowners who are considered exempt under the county's tax structure for senior citizen or disabled citizens and meet those income requirements, we offer to go out and do the control work for them. So we're able to help a few landowners with that. We do offer weed-free hay certification for hay producers, and we had, I think, only 2 participate in that last year. Our cost share program this year was really interesting. We had a lot of new participants who had never applied for cost share before. But that program, we reimburse landowners who have priority weeds for the cost of their herbicide. Some of it is a 70% reimbursement up to, testing my memory, I want to say $280. And then if you have a certain group of species, Class A's or knotweed, then we reimburse for 100% up to $350. So we had a number of new participants in that program last year. And then we also have a disposal program, and especially for tansy, allowing us to take the cost of disposing of weeds properly. There are only a few species that we do that for, but we would like to see folks controlling it before it gets to that phase. You may not need to put your tansy in the garbage if you've treated it while it was a smaller plant. So, and then we also loan out some equipment, particularly backpack sprayers and injection guns. So through all those programs, we were able to help 220 landowners last year, which is actually down from the year before. And I think when I identified the difference, it was somewhere between any of our grant programs that we just had a few less landowners without knotweed. So that was good. Again, with those programs that I just reviewed, we try to estimate how many landowners in each and maybe what the funds might have been. So of the programs that were not grant programs, we did help 72 landowners total. And we think that cost our program, sorry, the little video is right in that number, I think about $6,000 between cost share. Anticipated, we have to estimate on our exempt program expenses, and then also our disposal program. So I think that's a pretty good bang for our buck. And then these are some of our grant programs and outlining more specifically where we helped landowners. I was wrong. It looks like Class A, we had 62 landowners, so that's where our false brome falls, and 94 landowners with knotweed. But total with our grant projects, 158 landowners we were able to help. Most of those we're doing treatments on, so we're able to track treatment acres. We had just over 1,100 acres of treatments for those species, and almost 4,000 labor hours into those projects. I do have a breakdown of the grant funds that we receive. So I'll talk a little bit later about our primary funding source, which is assessment. But for grants, we did receive a total of $95,000 in grants last year. The majority of that was spent at Mount St. Helens from the Forest Service. We spent $74,000 at the Forest Service doing weed control, hawkweeds, scotch broom, knapweeds, and things like that. We did spend just under $14,000 on our knotweed projects. That funding primarily comes from the WSDA. And we are working on a variety of creeks. We have Abernathy Creek, Mill Creek, Monaghan Creek, Delameter Creek, the Toutle River. And then we're also doing some special projects with Fish and Wildlife in Kalama. And we're working with the Cowlitz tribe on the Olaqua Creek. So with all of our knotweed projects, just under $14,000. Our Class A funding comes from the State Weed Board and helps us with the false brome, the milk and slender flower thistles, and we had $5,000 on that last year. And then we have been partnering for a number of years with the Columbia Land Trust to maintain noxious weeds on properties out on Abernathy Creek because it overlapped with our knotweed. And we had just $1,400 come in on that. After many years of treatments, there are very few noxious weeds left in those properties, so we don't have to spend as much time as we used to out there. I did want to include some photos. I don't think I had done that in the past, but here are some of our Class A false brome photos. The map in the corner, you can see this is mostly concentrated up in Castle Rock, but we did find one single plant at Haydu Park in Kalama this year. We're not sure how it got there. We're hoping that it came in on the landscaping crew and that we'll just continue to monitor the area. We're hoping it didn't come from our team because we tend to boot brush before we leave sites. And none of us remember being in that specific part of the park before, but it could have. But ultimately, these are some photos of what we're looking for. Bright lime green grass in most cases. We do take a lot of effort to protect the native plants. So you can see our specialist here in the photo is using his foot to shoo away the native plant so he can only spray the false brome. So this is a very slow and tedious task because we are trying to be so targeted. And then you can see in the photo with the one person who's kind of far away, the vegetation in between the photo taker and that person is solid false brome. So most of the time we're finding it in the forest understory, but if there's forest openings, it really loves to take advantage of that too. If you ever have time, you can browse our GIS story map, which is available online, and you can learn all the things you want to know about false brome. Here are some photos from our Class A thistle site. Last year we had a really important detection along the side of, I want to say it was Rose Valley Road. I could have that road name wrong now that I think about it, but anyhow, there was a rocky hillside that had been treated prior in the year for shiny geranium, and amongst the entire hillside, inside and outside of the treatment zone, we did find a new infestation of slender flower thistle. Unfortunately, based on timing, this plant was in seed and there was hundreds of plants. So we tried to consult with our spray shop, who was not available at the time, but because the seeds were blowing around, my inspector and I made the call that the best thing would be to start bagging it immediately. And so we did. We spent maybe an hour or so bagging all of the slender flower thistle we could find. And now we're continuing to monitor that site with the spray shop. So that's a pretty good partnership. What was really strange about it was the lower parts of the plant were very dead and the upper parts of the plant were trying to survive. So we know it had been semi-treated, but not knowing it was there, maybe we didn't use the right product at the right time or something to get that species. So it's a little bit of an adventure, but we got it taken care of. But that is only one of maybe 4 or 5 sites that we have that in the county. Most of those are roadsides. We do have it on I-5 in 2 places, and then in the Woodland Bottoms and as well as Longview. So this is one we're definitely trying to contain. Here's our milk thistle, some photos from it. Generally, milk thistle is a very large species. A single leaf from milk thistle can be up to 2 feet in length. But we're also finding in some of the sites that we've been monitoring very small plants, maybe because we've been missing the small plants and we may be seeing natural selection here at its finest. But ultimately, we have this down in the Woodland Bottoms area and then in a few areas in Longview and Kelso. We haven't seen it anywhere else, but it is a pretty large plant in most cases. Here are some photos from our Mount St. Helens project. This is where we typically have a crew of 3 that go up to the mountain each day and do various noxious weed treatments. And we also had a lot of volunteer opportunities up there this year. So there's some photos with volunteers removing Scotch broom. We were able to, this year, in a partnership with WashDOT, move beyond the slide for the first time in several years. And we took the opportunity to bring 2 WCC crews with us. So we had maybe 15 to 16 people treating up at Johnston Ridge, where we historically had been doing treatments. And we were able to get that treatment done in a day. I really thank WashDOT for their partnership on that, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to get past the slide. So it didn't look as bad as I thought it was going to look, which is hopeful. And then here are some photos from our knotweed project. This typically happens in the late summer. We do have to wade through the water quite a bit, but we do have some successes. There's a photo, the second photo there is of me with the dead canes from last year. So as you can see, they were quite large the year before and very unhappy in the second year. There was just a few smaller plants growing underneath it. So we've been doing a project on Clark Creek, which we started just a couple years ago, and a lot of the knotweed out there we think is either giant knotweed or Bohemian knotweed, so it's much taller than Japanese knotweed. And when you're under that, it very much feels like you're in a jungle. So I included my jungle photo as well. Here are some other knotweed photos. One of the challenges we've been having specifically on Delameter Creek is that there is a beaver who continues to build a dam out of knotweed stems. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. All right, I think this might be my last one on grants. This is just a breakdown of the open grants that we have. For various reasons, we have 3 open grants with the Forest Service, and one of them did just close in August. But looking forward in 2025, we build 95,000, and we have 81,000 available for the next couple of years between the different grant projects. Okay, so this is kind of where I summarize all of our inspection and outreach, our written communications, our assistance programs, and our grants. Looking at total outreach for the year, we're estimating between all of the things that we do, we reach just over 5,000 people. And if you were to equivalent that to households in Cowlitz County, it would be about 12% of households that we were able to reach. So that's up from 9% last year. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about our financial situation. So obviously, everybody's trying to be frugal in today's day and age. Our weed board is funded through an assessment, which I did not put there, is essentially a benefit to each land. So it is not based on value, it is based on a singular rate. So our assessment rate is $8 per parcel and 30 cents per acre. If you have a designated forest land property, the law puts that at 1/10 of the rate. So 80 cents per parcel and 3 cents per acre. This is the financial summary sheet that we look at with our board on a monthly basis, but it is showing our year-end values. So we started with a total fund balance of $344,000 and ended with a total fund balance of $375,000. We did spend 88% of our budget, which is typical for us. There is usually some funds that are unspent at the end of the year, and those funds remain within our budget. And we also look at, in the bottom left corner, you'll see our cash flow chart. Because we receive most of our funding in April and October with property taxes, we have to monitor our funds throughout the year to ensure that we're not going to be short for a given month. So this flow that you see, highs and lows, is pretty typical for us. In the bottom right corner, you'll see two pie charts. The first one is total funds expended compared to the balance left over. And then the second one is a breakdown between how we spent those funds. So the majority of our funds are spent on labor. And then the next majority is on interfund services. And then our other services and our supplies is our smallest funding amount. And here's the slide on the special assessment rates that I thought I had put in here. So again, looking at our average rates, if you had a 5-acre parcel and it was not forest land, you would probably be paying $9.50 a year. Forest parcels are usually much larger than 5 acres, so I didn't average that out. But this is the rates. Those were last established maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know yet if we're going to need to be asking for an assessment increase soon. We've been trying to put it off as long as we can because it's a bit of a process and we don't want to increase if we don't have to. But just looking forward, we thought maybe this might be the year last year. We might be able to hold that off, but I think we'll have to wait until June to make that decision. Okay. Looking ahead to 2026, a couple of the projects that we're definitely looking at. We're looking to update our rules and regulations for the noxious weeds program, and that is currently under PA's review. I'm hoping that we can have an opportunity to discuss the PA's review in April with our board and then hold a hearing in May to formally adopt our rules and regulations. I believe they were last updated around 2012, so they definitely need an update. Alongside of that, I would like to be updating our enforcement procedures. There are many questions that I have in the enforcement process as to if I wrote a ticket, would it even be processed in the courts, things like that. But just want to make sure we have all of our procedures written up so that if we find ourselves in that situation, we're following everything to a T and not stuck at who do we contact about different things. And again, with the assessment rate, we're trying to avoid increasing it as long as we can, but that will be discussed with our budget this year. For our programs and services, just continuing our inspection services, educating as much as we can, continue to offer our assistance programs. Each of those programs was approved for 2026 by the Weed Board, and then continuing all of our grant partnerships. For office administration, we are looking to move back to the annex any day now. Working on a schedule with facilities. We are focusing on records retention and file organization. So we do have a tally going. I think we have officially destroyed somewhere around 13 boxes of records with Bailey's review. So that's been nice to get rid of some things that we no longer need to hold on to. But unfortunately, because of our board being the board that it is, they are permanent retention records. So we're also going to be learning how to transfer files to the archives. I'll be working with risk management on the accident prevention plan. I know that came up last fall and I haven't had a chance to get back to that, but that's on my list for this year, and overall looking to standardize many of our procedures. For education and outreach, we do have a noxious weeds workshop next Thursday, the 26th. We are co-hosting that with Lewis County, and it should be an all-day workshop for pesticide applicators to get credits. We're really looking forward to that. Continue to partner with master gardeners and continue to encourage citizens to use iNaturalist. We've had some really interesting discoveries from data on iNaturalist, just trying to keep track of what's going on in our county and areas that we can't see. If people find interesting plants and put it on iNaturalist, we can possibly know that we have something new here in our county. And then with grants and contracts, we're also applying for WCC crews for next year. So they have an interesting cycle. The deadline is March to apply for projects from October through September of the year following. So we're putting in an application to help to have the WCC crew for next year as well. That's been really helpful with our projects. I did want to end with a success story. So Tree of Heaven is a Class C noxious weed. It is a tree. I know that seems a little absurd, but it is. This tree is a host species to the spotted lanternfly, which is a known pest who can decimate apple crops, hop crops, and grape crops. So we have a lot of apples here in Washington, but other crops as well. And we're hoping to not have the spotted lanternfly arrive here. It's very prevalent on the East Coast, and it's very problematic there, but we don't want it to establish here. So we can do that by eliminating its host tree, the Tree of Heaven. And over the past few years, we've done quite a bit of surveying to try to detect it in our county, and we have been focusing on requesting that landowners remove any small seedlings so that they can do that at a cost-effective way, and eventually consider removing the large trees. So our inspectors have been recording points each year if it was present, and you can see that last year we had 108 points, and somehow a lot of trees have disappeared since then, but we're looking at only 65 points this year. So that's kind of a win in my mind, because the trees, we do offer extra assistance with this for funding to try to get those larger trees to come down. But as you could imagine, you may need specialized equipment to remove a tree from your front yard or backyard or whatnot. So it is quite expensive to address this issue. And we did have a lot of trees just disappear this last year. So that was really interesting to see. So I wouldn't say we're done with this battle at all, but it is encouraging to know that these things are getting taken care of. So are there any questions?
I wrote down IT. I know that when we talked, you're working with them to come up with a program where you guys are trying to get your real-time people in the field to be able to put in addresses and print off the letters and everything.
Mhm.
How's that going?
I am meeting with Mac, I think, next week. So if we have bigger ideas, then I'll be able to discuss that then. But I have been working with the IT team with Laserfish and our GIS overlap. And one of the things that we have finally gotten to work this year was actually, because we use Laserfish to create our letters, we take an export from GIS and it goes into Laserfish. The letters are generated and named appropriately with metadata attached. So each letter has a parcel attached to it. We're also using Laserfish to upload our photos, to capture all of our waivers for our grant projects, and then through our phone calls, we have an activity log as well. So one of the things we established this year is we're able to now click on a parcel in our weeds map, and there's a link to Laserfish that will take us to all of the files that we have that are associated with that parcel, which we were not able to do in the past. It just wasn't working. So now our inspectors have a lot more data at their fingertips than just whatever is in the map. So that's pretty cool. I don't know, I would like to someday just have it automate from GIS to Laserfish. That's one of the things I want to see if we can work on. But right now it is a manual process. Before I established this process, I think it was taking our program 2 hours at the end of each day to come back to the office and download it from a GPS unit and put it on the computer and mail merge a letter. So very time consumptive. But our inspectors are able to come back in the field and process their letters in 15 to 30 minutes now. So that's an improvement in the last few years. But hopefully we can more so automate that process so that they're not having to do that at all, that the letters can just be created and printed. So. Any other questions?
It's
Great,
the work you do. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Do I just leave it here?
Anything else for today? We're all good? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.